Mr. President, first of all, Iran. Do you support the attacks on Iran? Because, of course, they were involved in Ukraine. They supplied Russia with drones and equipment. So do you support the attacks?
Frankly speaking, we have very complicated relations with Iran, especially so during the war. Even before the war, back in 2020, we had a huge tragedy when the missiles shot down a Ukrainian passenger aircraft. Lots of people died. 176 people, including the crew, died. We wanted to have a talk about that with them, and I had a talk with the president. And he was saying that those were technical problems, and they did not admit to having shot down our aircraft with a missile. We reached out to military leadership. We managed to get in touch with multiple partners, and we sent across a team there, and they admitted having shot down, and we had a conflict. They were hiding the remains of people, and then afterwards they admitted it all. Everyone was saying that there would be an investigation, and they had to sort out people. Because people lost their families, lost their friends. It was a tragedy. They never gave a compensation to those people. And the ambassadors remained, ours in Iran and theirs in Ukraine. And after the beginning of the war, it was difficult for us. Our partners helped. And then Iran handed over a batch of Shaheds to Russia. And there was nothing of that kind at that point. And then there were strikes against us. And we were losing people, mostly civilians. We were losing people, and we wanted to solve that matter, and they gave us a word that that package had been ordered by Russia before the war. And they denied. They handed over thousands of those units, and they carried on, and then gave over licenses for the production plants to be constructed in Russia.
Продовжували виробляти дрони, а також продовжували і передали їм ліцензії на будівництво 2 заводів в Росії. І тому, так, я вважаю, що це
So do you support what's happened? Do you support what's happened now, the attacks?
Yes. The destruction of their capabilities. Their capability to build weapons that will kill people. So yes, I believe this is a powerful and correct move.
But isn't the fact that the strikes, the war, has drawn all the attention away from Ukraine, has drained many of the resources that may have gone to Ukraine, and isn't that a problem for you?
Це є велика проблема.
It is a big problem, yes. The political focus is changing, and that is absolutely understandable. And this means that aid from partners, above all from the United States, may be reduced. And we wouldn't want that. But we do feel it. We understand it. And I would like people's lives to be the priority, not just one conflict over another. Because undoubtedly, there are conflicts in the world, and they should be minimized. And any war has to end, because people of various religions, of various ethnicities and nationalities die. Any war should end. It is a great pity. And the Russians will feel their advantage on the battlefield. And it will be difficult for us.
So a wider Middle East war would be a disaster for Ukraine. It could draw in the UK, could draw in other countries. Is Putin already taking advantage of that? Are the attacks increasing?
має політичний програш. Тому що він показує, що він союзник Ірану, а він і є.
Putin will lose politically in any event,
Тому що він
because he is showing that he is an ally of Iran, and he is an ally anyway, and he will lose, because he won't be able to give Iran anything, because he is not as powerful as the legend has it. He is showing his true face during the war between Israel and Iran. While the US supports Israel, Putin will not be able to support Iran. That's what it is. But at any rate, he will increase strikes against us to use this opportunity, to use the fact that America's focus is changing over to the Middle East. Last night he struck. He dealt 150 strikes with Iranian rockets over a few hours against our civilian infrastructure. So last night there were strikes on civilian infrastructure and schools were ruined. He struck schools as well. That's what Putin is.
Do you fear that Donald Trump, will trade the fate of your country for Putin's help over Iran? Because Trump is the ultimate deal maker. Do you think that he will strike some grand bargain with Putin where he helps with Iran in return for a favorable deal on Ukraine?
Я завжди говорив, що ми точно не хочемо бути.
I have always said that we definitely do not want to be an object. As any country, we want to be who have agency. We have always shown our agency since the start of the war. And we have also done it even without partners' help. So we definitely aren't going to accept Russia's ultimatums. I believe we are not going to be a card in talks between great nations, and we will never accept that. So I do not recommend anyone to gamble with the Ukrainian lives. We have always supported America. We have always been a partner to America as the leader of the civilized world.
Сигнали Америки. Ми завжди були з Америкою партнером, як лідером цивілізованого.
I definitely do not want to see global deals between America and Russia. We don't need it. We are a separate story. We are a different story. Unfortunately, we are a victim of Russia's aggression. So we need to sort out this war as a separate case.
You have announced a deal with Keir Starmer, with the UK, on the co-production of drones, long-range drones, interceptor drones. How significant is that for you?
Для нас це дуже важливо. А в момент, коли у нас
It is very important for us. At a time when we had a shortage of artillery, we switched to drones. And that's true. And it was a switch over to high technology. Fuel our lives lost. And working remotely with drones until the war ends. Drones require constant funding, and they are funded within our country. And we asked our partners to fund Ukrainian manufacturing. When partners find it difficult to fund manufacturing in Ukraine, they are happy to fund production outside Ukraine, in their own countries. And we are in favor of co-production. We have chosen this. And it is a strong step forward. We agreed with Denmark, with Germany, we agreed with Keir Starmer. So we will go for co-production between Ukraine and the UK of large-range drones. There can be different drones. There could be humanitarian drones, demining drones, naval drones. And today, interceptor drones are important. They are intercepting Iranian Shaheds, and tomorrow they will be stockpiled in Britain. I do not think you will be at war, but it will be good for you to have these weapons.
Well, no, I mean, do you think that Vladimir Putin may see it as the UK being drawn into the war?
Ні, я так не вважаю. Весь цей
No,
час,
I don't think so.
весь цей час, ви розумієте,
All this time, if Putin wants to believe that Britain is involved in the war, he will find a reason to do so. This is the reason why he brought occupation to Ukraine. It isn't important for him to have a reason. It is his decision that's important. And if he decided to occupy Ukraine, that's what he is doing, and our partners are helping us. If Putin decides to start a war on NATO, he will do so, and the reason doesn't matter.
Just on sanctions, I know from what Downing Street has said that you're unhappy with the way sanctions are working. Which companies? There are companies that you think should be sanctioned that are not being sanctioned, and this is critical equipment you think is still getting into Russia. Is that right?
Санкції дуже важлива історія.
Sanctions are a very important story, which is going to stop quick militarization in Russia. Because components for their missiles, and missiles are the most painful strikes. Components for missiles and drones are coming in from other countries.
Including the UK?
Including the UK. Not too much, but including the UK. I gave the Prime Minister examples, but it's about...
For weapon systems?
Yeah. It's not weapon systems, it's components. Of course, UK companies never delivered a weapon to Russia. Of course not. But there are some components from some companies. It's from China, Taiwan, mostly China, Taiwan, but also Europe, also Germany, also Eastern Europe. Ще раз? Yes, Eastern Europe, also UK, and etc. So the question is,
is about the companies. So today I handed over a list of companies. That's very important, and that's the first time I did so. We provided a list of companies across the world. I provided a list of Russian companies manufacturing Oreshnik, the Oreshnik, you know, the new Russian weapon. They don't have many of them, and they don't work very well, but they do have them. So for mass production, they need components from companies, and I gave the Prime Minister a list of those companies, and we are asking, these are Russian companies, and we are asking for sanctions to be applied to those companies, because those companies, even though they are Russian, they have not been sanctioned yet. Number two.
And that's not happening yet?
Not happening.
Right. So because we have evidence at Sky News that there are enormous flows of dual-use British goods, going to neighboring countries, neighboring Russian states, and then into Russia. And you are saying that has to stop?
Yes, I believe so. There are lists of these companies and lists of these components. We are monitoring this. It is vitally important for us. And we are handing these lists over to our partners and asking them to apply sanctions. Otherwise, the Russians will have missiles. They will have a mass production of Oreshnik. We are studying this. We are researching this. We are selecting these companies and handing them over. The same about energy. There needs to be blanket sanctions against the Russian energy sector. Don't just play these games. Somebody can do, others can't. Price caps are important. Price caps on oil. And we are talking. So we have been talking about it for the 3 years that the war has been on. Sanctions against the banking system. Switching off SWIFT. You know that not the entire banking system has been switched off SWIFT. Some banks have been exempt. I am grateful to Britain for their leadership in applying sanctions to the shadow fleet. And today we are talking about sanctioning captains, and these are physical sanctions. The Prime Minister has done this, and other countries are doing it.
Це дуже важливо. Прем'єр-міністр це робив, і зараз інші країни це роблять.
Let's talk about NATO. Trump left the G7 meeting without talking to you. Do you plan to meet Donald Trump at the NATO meeting?
Так, я збираюсь.
I am planning. I do not know what will happen, to be frank. The teams are working on this. Yes, there are plans to meet.
But have you agreed a meeting for substantial talks, or are you just hoping to have a meeting?
Ні, проговорюють час.
No, they are talking about timing.
It's timing, right. Because do you feel that he has a better relationship with Vladimir Putin than he has with you?
Це дуже складне питання.
It is a complicated question, because I truly do not know what relationship Trump has with Putin. I am not aware.
Я думаю, що те, що я
I
знаю,
think what I know, you know, and the media
є
knows.
різні сигнали щодо
There are various signals about that, and I'm confident that President Trump understands that Ukrainians are allies to America, and the real existential enemy of America is Russia. They will never be friends. They may be short-term partners, but they will never be friends.
бути на якийсь короткий час партнери, але друзями неможливо.
But he seems to go out of his way to talk fondly about Putin, to support Putin when he can. Are you worried about that, the nature of that relationship? Are you surprised by the nature of that relationship?
Я нічому не дивуюсь спочатку цієї війни, скажу вам відверто.
Nothing surprises me since the start of this war.
Ще більше
10 years
10 років
ago,
тому
people were talking about
всі
Russia and
говорили,
Ukraine
що
being
ми
neighbors, friends,
сусіди і будемо жити
and now we are
А
sworn
сьогодні
enemies,
ми
and they are
закляті
occupiers.
вороги, вони окупанти. Тому я
So
нічому
nothing
не
surprises me.
дивуюсь. Я просто вважаю, що у
I
Америки
believe that
і у
Americans
русських
and
різні
Russians
цінності.
have different values.
А ми дуже вільна
And we
нація,
are a
дуже
free nation.
свободна, волелюбна,
We are
і у
a
нас
freedom-loving
однакові
nation.
цінності з американцями.
And we share the same
А
values
ще я
with
вважаю, що
Americans.
самі люди
And I
Америки
also
дуже
believe that
підтримують
American
Україну.
people support Ukraine a lot.
І дуже хотілося б, щоб той
I would
підхід,
very much like
який зараз
for the approach President Trump is using now in his relations, at least his public relationship with the Russians. I would like this approach to be only a way to force Putin to the negotiating table
тільки для
and to
того,
end the
щоб
war.
змусити
And let us hope
Путіна
so.
сісти за стіл перемовин і закінчити війну. Будемо на це надіятися.
There is talk, we'll talk about the peace talks in just a moment, but there is talk of NATO countries having this target for spending of 5% GDP on defense by 2035. That's 10 years away. Is that too slow in your view?
Дуже повільно.
Very slowly. In my view, this is slow,
Повільно,
because we believe that starting from 2030,
через те,
Putin
що
can have
ми
significantly
вважаємо,
greater
що
capabilities.
2030
Today,
року
Ukraine is holding him up.
Путін може бути
He has no time to drill the
значно
army,
з
and they
більшими
are all
спроможностями.
getting
Сьогодні
annihilated
Україна його тримає,
and
в
wiped
нього
out
немає
at the
часу
battlefield.
тренувати армію.
In any
Вони
case,
всі
he needs a
знищені,
pause.
всі стараються на
He
полі
needs
бою.
sanctions to be
Йому
lifted.
потрібно в будь-якому
He needs a
випадку
drilled
пауза,
army,
йому потрібно
as
зняти
he's
санкції,
got
йому потрібно
lots, more than a million
натреноване
people
військо,
wounded or
бо
dead.
багато, більше мільйона
Professional
людей у
people who
нього
were
поранені
professional
або
warriors.
вбиті.
And
Професійні
now
люди, які
he's
були
got
професійні,
non-drilled
а
ones.
зараз не
And 10 years
натреновані.
is a very long
І
time.
10 років це
He'll
дуже
have
довго.
a new army
Він
ready by
підготує
then.
нову армію.
Sorry, excuse me for interrupting, but do I understand you? Do you think that Putin could attack another NATO country within 5 years, test Article 5 within 5 years or fewer number of years?
Саме так.
Precisely.
Я
I
так
believe
вважаю.
so.
A matter of months? Could he do it within months, do you think?
Ні, я вважаю, він не готовий.
No, I don't think he's ready for that.
In reality, have you given up your ambition to join NATO, be part of NATO?
Я вважаю, що це
I
вигідна
believe it is an
пропозиція для
advantageous proposal for NATO today
членів НАТО,
to have an ally like Ukraine with NATO
такого
weapons,
союзника,
with
як
new
Україна,
technology that our partners don't have yet.
зброєю, з новими технологіями, які
But obviously we are open, we have no
немає, але,
secrets,
безумовно,
and
ми
with experienced people,
цього і
because our people, at any rate, have had 10 years of different types of fighting. But it has been a long, long history. And this isn't just the battlefield. It is the economy, it's survival, it's cyber attacks, it's the banking system, the energy sector, and defense in many, many areas, the water supply. And you don't think about this when there is no war. But from water purification to power in your apartment and gas. And NATO doesn't have this experience. So this would strengthen NATO. I'm not saying we will be in NATO. But if somebody says Ukraine needs NATO, I do believe that this is mutual. It is a mutual opportunity and a mutual need. And NATO needs Ukrainians.
But do you accept it's unlikely to happen? In fact, it's not going to happen.
It isn't possible right now.
Yeah. On the peace talks, it seems they have very little momentum. Vladimir Putin said the other day, all Ukraine is ours. He thinks he's winning. He's not stopping. Do you think it is time to do a compromise, to have a compromise deal with Vladimir Putin?
At any rate, a ceasefire is nobody's victory and nobody's defeat. It is a temporary freeze de facto, and it is a compromise on both sides. Both sides in this war had absolutely different goals. The Russians intended to occupy us, and they are open about that. Ukrainians intended to stop that, and this is a war for independence.
But he wants you, with respect, he wants you to agree to his conditions before there is a ceasefire. Is it not time to look at those conditions and maybe do a deal based on some of those conditions, or are you still in a position of no concessions at the moment?
We are standing for a dialogue. We support a ceasefire. We support an unconditional ceasefire, and we support the idea that we should meet, talk and understand if there is, and if real compromises are possible, and if there is a real way to end the war. And I think it is important, because after such a meeting and such talks, we would need to look for a way out. We definitely share different values, and we are different in our worldview. But I believe that reason should win, and it would stand to reason to end the war.
The very minimum Putin seems to want is the entirety of the 4 regions that he claims. It seems that Donald Trump is not going to get tough with Putin. Do you accept that the price for peace is now almost certainly going to be the breakup of your country? Do you accept that that is ultimately going to be the price for peace?
I don't believe that he is interested in these 4 regions. He wants to occupy Ukraine, just in the primitive sense of the word physical occupation. Because we have seen, our land has seen different wars, even the Second World War. Because when you occupy something, it does not mean that you will hold it, that there won't be an internal explosion, that you will control the territories, because the identity is maintained even in occupied territories. And that means that you will still be able to stand for your independence. Putin wants more. He wants to destroy our identity and our independence. But again, I believe that this is his partial goal. His goal is greater than that. As they say, we are just We are a tough nut. We are a tough nut for him. So yes, his goals are greater.
Горіх такий твердий, так, попався на зуб. Це ми просто... Да, тобто ціль у нього більше.
But if there is, you can survive and keep fighting on European support, and maybe also on minimal American support. But what is the strategy? Are you just going to lose more slowly if there is not a deal done sooner?
Так і є. Путін розраховує на...
That is so. Putin is counting on a slow occupation of Ukraine, the reduction in European support, and America's standing back from this war completely. And so these are all elements that he is counting on, plus the removal of sanctions. And he does not even need to worry about how long the war will go on for. It won't be a problem for him. But I think this strategy should be as follows. Pressure on Putin with political sanctions, with long-range weapons, all of this, so that he agrees to sue for peace. There is no other strategy, and this is the right strategy, because to force him to the negotiating table, well, he shows everybody he does not want to end the war.
And if the Americans don't support that strategy, if the American help is reduced at the end of the summer, if you don't get enough help from the Europeans, what is the outcome of all this, do you think?
Це залежить від наших домовленостей з президентом Трампом.
This depends on our agreements with President Trump. It depends on Europe's strength, whether it is ready to multiply its aid to Ukraine. And I believe there are European leaders who truly understand that it is in their interest for Ukraine to endure. Ukraine's defense is Europe's defense. And these are not just beautiful words. This is risk reduction, yes, with our human cost, but it is a reduction of risk to European countries.
Так, але це зменшення ризиків для європейських країн.
The war is not going well. Would you say at the moment that you were losing the war?
Я так не вважаю.
No, I don't think so. At any rate, this isn't a simple situation for us. It is not as difficult as in the first days of the invasion. But even back then, I and our people, our soldiers, all of us, were not prepared to give up our independence, to give up our rights, to give up our state, our lives. Today, the situation is different. Putin does not have a great situation on the battlefield. It is more difficult for us because he has more of everything. And that is the answer in terms of what partners should do to help Ukraine powerfully, to show this and to be quick at proposing that Putin ends the war. These things must be done by everyone. It should not be just me campaigning for it. It doesn't work like that. It just does not work like that. We are all grateful to Ukraine for defending Europe. And we are grateful that you are grateful. But let us make Ukraine stronger, many times stronger, and see that there are no borders in making it stronger.
Ми дякуємо за таку вдячність, але давайте посилимо Україну.
And these signals will force him to the negotiating table. And there is no other way.
Немає кордонів цьому посиленню. Тоді це змушує його, такі сигнали змушують його сідати за стіл перемовин. Ну, а як інакше?
You mentioned right at the beginning Donald Trump, and you need continued help from Donald Trump. Everybody is still talking about the meeting in the Oval Office, which didn't go well. Do you think about that a lot, and do you think there are things, do you wish you'd done that differently, I suppose I'm asking?
Не знаю. Знаєте, ну...
I don't know.
Ми
You know,
повинні
we need
бути
to be honest.
чесними. Я думаю, що
I think it is one of Ukraine's main character
одна з
traits
головних рис
to defend the
України,
world and to support. And the reason the world supported us is because we were
став
honest.
захищати світ і
We did not
підтримувати.
provoke the war.
Багато хто не захищав,
We did
але
not
підтримав,
give up
тому що
our
ми були
values.
чесними.
We did not
Ми
succumb
не
to
провокували
the
війну.
ultimatums.
Ми нормальних
We
цінностей
were honest.
ми не
And
змінюємо.
I believe I
Ми
conducted
не
myself
пішли на
honestly.
ультиматум. І ми чесні. І я поводжу
Maybe
себе,
some
я вважаю,
don't like it,
чесно.
but it is what it is.
І це може не подобатись, але це є, як є.
What went through your mind as this meeting unraveled?
Я дуже хотів, щоб Америка була
I really wanted America to be a strong
партнером.
partner.
Я,
And to be
чесно
honest,
кажучи,
I was counting on that.
розраховував на це.
And indeed,
Я дійсно
there were things that
і
don't bring us closer to ending the war. There were some media. The media people standing around us were talking
були
about some small
речі,
things, like my suit.
які не
But it
наближують
is not
нас
the main
до
thing.
закінчення війни. Були якісь
Did you feel bullied? Did you feel bullied in that situation?
можна не відповідати на це.
I would rather not answer this question.
I want a couple of questions about you. The war is not going well. There's no sign of peace. Your relationship with Trump is not great. Have you thought of handing over to another leader? Have you ever thought, I've had enough? Someone else should perhaps do this?
Я завжди готовий. Я не готовий зрадити
I am always ready,
народу,
but I am not ready to betray the people,
яких я
people whom I love and respect for the way how we have been behaving during such a difficult
під
test.
час такого складного випробування.
I feel it.
І
And once upon a time, I felt it was painful for me to give awards to parents when it is post-mortem,
я якось
a
сказав,
posthumous
що мені больно
award
нагороджувати
of the hero of Ukraine
батьків,
for their dead sons.
нагородою посмертної
There is a war,
їх
and
синів,
for me it is a
героїв
great duty
України. Для мене
to go
це
through this
боляче.
war together with my
Ця
country.
війна
If my people wish to replace me, it is not that
для
someone
мене це,
has that wish,
розумієте, для мене
it is a
це
fundamental matter.
великий
Should my
обов'язок.
people believe that they need a different leader and they have a different view, I have no right to argue. That's a fact. I
Якщо
would
є,
just have no right to stay.
у моєго народу бажання замінити
Yes,
мене.
I'm tired,
Ні у
because it is
когось.
the country at
Це
war,
принципові речі.
and there are people who are equally tired, or maybe even more tired, who knows.
А якщо мій народ
We just have no right to
мені
that.
потрібен інший лідер.
And the pressure on the pressure on your family, the pressure on you. Despite all that, you say you're going to carry on. You still think you're the best man to take Ukraine through this.
Найдосвідченіше.
I am the most experienced one,
Може, і не
maybe not the
найкраще.
best one.
Завжди є люди краще тебе.
There are always people better than you.
So it's the experience that will keep you going. That what you've learnt over the last 3.5 years will keep you going.
Чому навчилися
Things that we have
і-
learned and
і
things that I have
що,
managed to achieve
напевно,
together with people. It is for
що
certain
я зміг
that I didn't get there on my own.
що я зміг разом з людьми,
Those
я
things
точно
are
не
probably
самостійно це
important.
зробив.
20
Це
talks with
безумовно.
leaders per day at
Ці
challenging
речі,
moments.
вони, напевно,
All these
важливі,
things need to be built
знаєте,
up. These are not trivial things. It is not just
десятка
building up, but also to
розмов,
deliver a result.
з лідерами
And not just a result.
на добу.
You see, this result
складні моменти.
needs to be brought over to Ukraine
це
because
потрібно
reaching an agreement is just one thing.
побудувати.
It is a tough leadership
Це
function.
непрості речі. І не просто поговорити.
Just final question. You met the king on this visit. Can you share what he said to you? Did he give you support? Are you allowed to share what he said to you?
Завжди У мене завжди з ним
I have always had a very good dialogue with
дуже
him,
хороший
and I treat him really warmly.
І він такий,
I cannot use other
я
words.
до нього дуже,
But how else can I describe
прям
it?
дуже. Я просто не можу
Otherwise,
сказати інше.
it would be not modest,
Зовсім
going against the protocol.
нескромно,
He is a bright man,
непротокольно. Так, це
and one
правильне
can
слово
talk
буде,
to different
непротокольно.
things with him.
Так, да,
But I
він-
cannot go public with
світла
what I
людина.
talk to him about.
І з ним можна проговорити деякі речі,
And I cannot say publicly what he
але я
supports
не
me
можу
with.
публічно сказати,
Let it stay between us, if I may.
з чим я до нього звертаюсь.
Very diplomatic. Mr. President, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.